Hi, this is Unfiltered Counsel and Beyond, where we take the opportunity to hear from the people behind the title and learn about their life challenges and how they overcame them, their joys and successes, and what really matters to them, both professionally and personally. In this way, we're able to share the steps taken by these very successful lawyers and show that they are real people too, just like you and me, and hopefully help you to better navigate your career journey in the legal profession. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by my dear friend and eagle, the wonderful Nicki Schroeder. Welcome, Nicki.
Thank you, Lesley. I'm delighted to be here.
So, Nicki, tell us something about you that might surprise people who only know you professionally as the General Counsel.
Oh, I think the thing that always surprises people is that I took a massive career break in the middle of my career. Uh, Having got to about 8 years qualified, I took 10 years out and then came back and started my career again and have been back for about 12 years.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because that is fascinating and amazing and incredible, and well done, you.
Oh, well, thank you. So I had been working in private practice at a firm called Allswang as a media litigator. I had child number one, and very quickly afterwards, I had child number two. Not quite Irish twins, as they're called, but 13 months between the two. Um, and my second child was diagnosed when she was just below 2 years of age with severe learning difficulties and autism.
Mm.
So I was finding it quite difficult to do the juggle.
Mm.
She had lots of medical appointments.
Mm.
We were doing lots of intensive interaction, lots of speech and language therapy, really trying to make sure that she really recognized her full potential. So I decided that I couldn't balance that with doing a job as a litigator, which was quite full on and demanding. So I gave it all up and became a stay-at-home mum and
Mm.
stayed at home with Emily for 10 years, almost 10 years exactly. And during that time, I had my third child. So had three children and decided one day when the third child was coming up to about 5 and due to start school that maybe I should think about something to occupy my time. And saw an advertisement, thought it looked really interesting, and the only downside was the closing date to apply for that job was that afternoon. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Hadn't worked for 10 years, had to do a CV, get it in 2 hours. Husband came home from work about 7:30, and never having even discussed me going back to work, I had to ask him if he would mind babysitting on the Wednesday because I had an interview. And the rest is history.
That's incredible. So, I mean, so what actually happened? So you put your CV forward.
I put my CV forward. It was immediately after the Leveson inquiry, and it was a job working with the Newspaper Society. And part of the role was going to involve helping set up the new press regulator, the Independent Press Standards Organisation. And part of the job was going to be giving pre publication advice to regional newspapers. And I thought, well, it's been 10 years, but I think I can probably do that. So, and I also thought the whole post Leveson landscape was going to be absolutely fascinating. So I perhaps, perhaps bravely or naively, maybe one of the two, thought this will be all right. It doesn't matter that I've been away for such a long period of time.
So
Put my
you
hat
you
in the
got the
ring.
job.
I did get the job.
That's amazing.
I
That's
did get the job.
incredible. After 10 years away from work, just goes to show you can do it if you have the confidence, the courage to apply, and then take the time to showcase your attributes and what you can actually bring to the table.
You absolutely can. I mean, since I've been back at work, I've mentored a number of women that have had career breaks, and almost all of them have successfully made that transition back into the workforce. So it feels daunting, but actually it's not. The very first day, the phone rang, and my then boss looked at me and she said, "Well, it's for you." And I thought, "Oh dear." And I answered the phone, and it was a question about contempt of court. And I thought, "Oh, I know the answer to this." So it all worked out.
It's incredible, isn't it? You just need to find that little nugget, that opportunity that actually I can do this. Yes, I remember how to do this. I can do it. Yes, here's the answer. Right, bring on the phone calls. When's the next one coming? That's
Absolutely.
fantastic.
I mean, it is a little bit like muscle memory. But in my defence, I should say that the new Defamation Act came into force the day I went back to work after 10 years. So for all of us in the media litigation sector, we were all starting from scratch on that day.
Oh, that's
It was a bit
perfect
helpful.
timing.
It was very,
Yeah.
very good timing.
And how long did you stay in that role?
Well, I only stayed in that role for 10 months because an opportunity came up at ITV, which again um, was very exciting. And um, I thoroughly enjoyed my time at the Newspaper Society, loved every minute of it, but IPSO was up and running. They were restructuring, so they were forming themselves into a new corporate structure, and the ITV role came up, and it was just a fantastic time. Um, I was still in touch with them. I still have friends there, but it was a fantastic time to move on and do something a little bit different. And I'd never worked in broadcasting before. I'd had some broadcasting clients when I was in private practice, but I'd never been in-house at a broadcaster. And to be somewhere that was such a household name and advising on programs that I'd watched and everybody knew about, that was tremendous fun.
And how long did you stay in that role for?
I was at ITV for 5 years, so, I'm not as much of a flibbertigibbet as I might sound. That was a decent length.
That's yeah. So tell us, what were your favorite programs?
Oh, that's a really good question. What were my favourite programs? I did, um, I did do the legal advice for, some observational documentaries about people working in the public sector. So I did the legal advice for a program called Rookies, which was for young policemen, training to be policemen. That was very good fun. I did one about traffic cops, and that was quite good fun. I quite enjoyed that. And I did one about Brighton Police Station. So I enjoyed doing that. It's always very nice to see people that are doing jobs that are completely different to what I do, but doing them very well and sort of seeing behind the scenes and
It's like
trying
what
to
we're
make
doing
sure.
here today,
Yeah, a
Nikki.
little bit, a little bit.
And so, why did you leave ITV? Where did you go after that next?
Well, I had my head turned again, which is maybe a little bit of a theme. So I'd been at ITV for 5 years, and I had a friend who was working at what was then called Discovery, now Warner Brothers Discovery, and Discovery wanted to set up a global anti-piracy function. Interestingly, they hadn't had one up until that point, even though they were the fifth biggest media company in the entire world. And it just felt like a dream job. It was going to involve a lot of travel. Discovery was in 70 different countries in the world. It was starting a new function. It was moving into a slightly different area of law. It was getting across lots of different jurisdictions and making lots of relationships with international law enforcement. So I had my head turned and I went off to Discovery for 3 years.
And did you enjoy that 3 years as
I
much
did
as you
well.
did?
I did. I loved the first 2 years, and then probably just like everybody else in the world, COVID hit, and I was in my home office in London, with people phoning me up saying, "You have to close down this pirate service in Vietnam. What are you going to do about it?" And I was thinking, what do you think I'm going to do about it? Because all of law enforcement there's a global pandemic. They're not going to go out and raid somebody's studios and close them down. So for that last year, it became quite a tricky job because
Mm.
none of the courts were sitting, none of the police services were really interested in enforcing what they really saw as being not quite victimless, but economic crime rather
Mm.
than crime against people.
And you
And
had bigger things to worry
they
about that
had
time.
bigger
Yeah.
things to worry about at that time. And then, as I said, there's a little bit of a theme. I had my head turned because Reach came knocking and asked me if I was interested in joining them, and I was. So the
So,
rest is history.
so how long have you been at Reach now?
I've been at Reach for 4.5 years, joined in January 2022,
And you're the
and I'm the General Counsel. I joined as Director of Editorial Legal Services. Uh, coming in principally to help advise on some long-running litigation that they'd had. And within about the first 6 months, the then GC moved on to another role and they offered it to me. And I wasn't sure I wanted it, truthfully.
Mm.
Always had been a media litigator, always worked in the media. Uh, GC sounded a bit scary, but I said I would do it for a few months and see if I liked it. And I did. So the rest is history.
And now you're loving
Now
it
I'm loving it. Yes, absolutely.
with all your high profile cases.
Well, there are a few. There are a few that people have heard of.
Yes. No, that's really exciting. So tell us what brings out your best energy?
I like a challenge. I like a problem. I like a problem to be solved. I quite like working against a clock, so I like deadlines. I like people. I I only like working places where I like the people. I like to be happy. I like to have good relationships. I like to have a joke. I like people to like working with me. So all of that needs to coalesce to
Sounds like a
make it the
dream job.
perfect environment. And I've been lucky everywhere I've worked. I've made very good friends and kept those friends as I've moved on to new roles.
So tell us before you just touched on it, like stepping up to the general counsel role for a PLC. Um, Tell us about, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And if so, how did you overcome it?
Um, I absolutely have. Probably that's the reason why I said no. I'm not sure I want the job. Thank you very much. When it was first suggested, I'm not sure I said I don't want it. I think I said I don't think I can do it, which is classic imposter syndrome.
Mm.
Uh, and my husband laughs because he says every time I start a new job, I buy the textbook and read the textbook. And that's true. I do. Except there isn't really a textbook for being GC, so that was a bit tricky. But it meant every time somebody asked me a question that I didn't know the answer to, I had to get comfortable quite quickly with not knowing the answer to things and either going away and looking it up or relying on my network of people who, external advisors or other GCs. The Eagle Club is great in terms of if you don't know, somebody will tell you that or recommend somebody fantastic that you can go and instruct. So, yeah, but I had to get comfortable very quickly with not being necessarily an expert on everything I was being asked to advise on straight out of the box and needing a little bit of processing time or a little bit of research time to go and find out.
But that's the excitement
It
of
is.
becoming a general counsel.
It is never
And
a dull moment.
I think you've just highlighted again the importance of having a really great network to be
Yeah,
able to access answers to things that you may never have come across in your life, and having a huge group of people who've got experiences from everywhere. Someone will have an answer for you, is generally the experience.
that is absolutely my experience of the Eagle Club. I remember literally only just joined and I was reading the group and somebody posted my CFO or my CEO, I can't remember who, has come to me and he'd like to buy a yacht. Does anybody have a template for a purchase agreement for a yacht? And I read this and thought, blimey, I wouldn't know where to start. And three separate eagles had a template to buy a yacht. So who knew? What a resource.
That's incredible. So, Nikki, tell us, why did you choose to become a lawyer?
Oh, I was actually quite a reluctant lawyer, truth be told. So I didn't know what I wanted to do at university, and I went to a school that hadn't really had a tradition of sending pupils or students to Oxbridge. And a new head teacher came to the school, and he stopped me in the corridor, and I was about 16, and he said, "You, I'm going to send you. You pick Oxford or Cambridge. I'm going to send you to one of the two." And I just laughed at him. Don't be ridiculous. I don't have particular. They were O levels back in the day. I don't have particularly good O levels. Uh, you know, they wouldn't look at me. And he said, I was a bit of a live wire when I was at school, truth be told. And he said, "Don't you worry about that. I have placed plenty of anti-establishment nonconformists at Oxbridge, and if you want to go, I'll help you." And so, didn't really think of myself as an anti-establishment nonconformist, but that's clearly how I present it. So I I said, I don't know why, but I said Cambridge. Okay, I'll go to Cambridge. And I didn't know which college to apply for. And he said, just get the brochures and pick one. So I picked it was a smaller college, a college called Selwyn. And this head teacher tutored me after school in his own time and tutored me for the entrance exams and suggested that I applied to do law. And so I did, and I got in and kind of got to the end of the first year and thought, oh, it's a bit dull, really. I'm not really enjoying this. I wish I'd done English. I'm a huge reader, love reading. And I was persuaded, slightly against my better judgment, I was persuaded that I should finish the law degree, that swapping and doing English was, what would I do with an English degree? Was, I think, what my parents said to me. So I thought, I finished the law degree and I thought, okay, well, do you know what I would have done with an English degree? I would have worked in a publishing company, I thought. I thought, but I've done this bloody law degree and I might as well qualify as a lawyer. So I applied to do my training contract at a firm that did a lot of publishing work. It was a boutique media firm. And during my training contract, I was working on a case. So we were working for the Independent on Sunday and the Observer, and they had exposed this this child abuse ring in children's homes in North Wales. And it was the Observer had broken the story. They'd written this big story, and they had named 6 people that they said were part of this paedophile ring. And 5 of them had been convicted and gone to prison. And the 6th, who was a policeman, uh, sued for libel. And so I was helping. I was on this team. It was just myself and the partner uh, defending these 2 newspapers against this claim that we'd called this guy paedophile, and we were justifying it. We were saying it was true. So we had these 3 young men, being children at the time, hugely damaged, as you might imagine. Coming from children home, suffered awful
Oh.
violence and really damaging abuse. And they turned up in the High Court, really held truth to power, just
Mm.
spoke truth to power. The judge was horrible to them, didn't believe them until right at the end of the trial. And then suddenly the judge turned and the judge believed him, or seemed to believe them. Um, but it was back in the days of jury trials for libel, and it was a 10-2 verdict, and the police officer won. But I just thought this is so important, and it
Mm.
really pressed all my buttons. And I suddenly thought I can use the law to do good, and I can get these stories told, and I can find ways of making sure that people hear these stories that otherwise nobody would ever hear about. And it is so important, and people should.
Mm.
And so that was the turning point. And I was lucky enough. There's a theme to my career, I suppose. I was lucky enough about 6 months after that trial finished. I was newly qualified, and uh, a fantastic female media lawyer called Geraldine Proudler was joining Allswang. And somebody suggested to her that maybe she should speak to me. And she came and she said, I'm setting up a team. And I was the most junior member in the team. And I had theme again, I had such fun for 10 years. Um, Again, these kind of stories that people wouldn't have wanted told. I did the Cash for Questions case with Neil Hamilton, was alleged to have been accepting money to ask questions in Parliament. So that trial settled on the door of the court when he dropped his libel trial, but there was a big select committee. It led to the downfall of the Conservative government at the time. I did a big police corruption case in Stoke Newington Police where we'd alleged that the police were being racist, and we won that case. That was great. That was with Duncan Campbell, the really kind of well-known Guardian journalist. I did one about the management of Broadmoor and how patients were being treated in Broadmoor. Uh, I had a ball. I loved those 10 years. I did lots of other fun stuff as well. I worked in movies and advertising campaigns and various odd bits of litigation that were quite funny. But it was fun. I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
I love to hear you share what an incredible, not just successful, but meaningful, fun, enjoyable career progression that you've had. And also, just a couple of things I want to pull out from there. You know, the teacher who took the time to tutor and mentor you after hours to make sure that you were given the right support to go on to university, which is phenomenal universities. I just think, how valuable we are to have these incredible teachers teaching the younger generation of the future, and the importance of valuing that group as a community, our teachers, because they are taking you to the next level, and they didn't have to do that, but they really want you to succeed. So I take my hat off to them, and I take my hat off to that partner Geraldine at Olswangs, because of the incredible impact that she's had on your career to inspire you. And we need the partners in these law firms to do the same, to make sure that their teams and their staff are given, insight and inspiration and energy, and to delight in the work that they are instructed to act on, to give them opportunity to learn and to be better. So, that's really incredible. And these have been really defining for you, both these moments in your career history.
They absolutely have, and I think you're right. I remember probably 6 or 7 years ago, and there was one of these Facebook things that was going around. Name the person that has been most influential in your life, and I posted on Facebook at the time, and I said, "Oh, well, I should probably say my husband, and he is great, but actually, I'm not going to say Neil Schroeder. I'm going to say Winston Breen." Which was the head teacher,
Oh,
because he changed my life. And had it not been for him, I wouldn't have gone to Cambridge, and I wouldn't have met my husband, and I wouldn't have had my career, and I wouldn't be living, and I wouldn't have had my children.
yes.
And completely randomly and bizarrely, the message got back to Winston Breen's son, who contacted me over Facebook, because his dad had died some years previously, and said I would, he was quite the man, wasn't he, my dad? And it was just so
Oh,
lovely that actually it had, me not knowing that it would, but that it had got back to him as to how highly thought of he was.
that's incredible. I love that story. That's so nice for him to have that memory, to share that with you. Um, Nicki, tell me what you find most rewarding about being the general counsel.
I really like getting under the bonnet of the business. I like, I mean, maybe again, maybe that's the theme, that I like to know what everybody else doesn't know. So I think that's why I've liked being a media lawyer, because I like knowing things, and then being able to make them understood. And I think I like being general counsel because I really understand how the business works,
Mm,
and all the things that maybe if you're just an employee, or if you're, a member of the legal team, you know bits of it, but you don't know all of it. You're not able
mm,
to put it all together.
mm,
So I think I like having the inside track, and there
mm,
is never a dull moment.
mm,
Honestly, every day is a school day, constantly learning, constantly having to apply existing skills in slightly different ways.
mm.
Um, so
What
yeah,
do you think people most underestimate about the role?
I think certainly what I see with kind of more junior people in the team, and I was exactly the same. So I apologise to all of the fabulous GCs that I've worked with in my past, but I was exactly the same. I could roll my eyes and think, why on earth? What do they know about it? Why on earth are they asking me to do it this way? That's
Mm,
clearly not the optimum way. But actually, there's usually a reason, and it's often, particularly if you're working for a PLC, it's often a reason you can't share.
mm,
It's because you know that this initiative is coming down the pipeline, or you actually know that this part of the business is maybe at risk, or going to change, or somebody senior is going to leave. So there's always a reason why you're telling somebody to do something in a way that's not necessarily linear. Um, Even if you can't share it with the person, and even if the person gets frustrated, and I got frustrated myself, um, when I didn't necessarily know the reasons for it. So I think that's probably the hardest thing of
and now we
the role.
know.
And now
This
we
is
know.
what happens in a general counsel role. They can't share everything with you because some of it is so confidential. It can't be shared. So there's always a reason why you're being asked to do something in a particular way. So, Nikki, given all of the stuff going on in your life, what helps you stay grounded in such a demanding role?
I I am a runner. I am a bad runner. I am a very, very slow runner. I actually have been overtaken running by people walking. And I wear this Apple Watch, and it'll say to me, "I can see that you're doing an outdoor walk," and I think, "No, I'm not. I've just run 5K," but very, very slowly. But I often find if I've gone out for a run that when I come back, I've got the answer to the question that I've been wondering about. I'm also a big fan of reformer Pilates. So if I am,
So am I.
it's amazing, isn't it?
It is so amazing.
So if I am stressed or anxious about something, just being stretched really, really makes a difference.
Yes, I went and did a reformer Pilates and recently, and my whole body was just aching because I haven't done it for a long time. But I just think it's the most fantastic thing to do, reformer Pilates. I'm a huge fan of it.
It is the bomb.
Um, so, Nikki, what stands out to you when you meet someone that impresses you? Like, for example, um, a law firm partner trying to win your favor. What are the things that stand out for you?
Um, Honestly, I think authenticity is so important. I don't really want people to try and impress me. I just want people to be themselves. I want people to tell me what they can do, but also tell me what they can't do. Um, Certainly, if I'm working if I'm working with people and they tell me they're an expert in something, I expect them to be an expert in it. I don't expect to be educating them on the law. I certainly expect fee quotes to be honoured. I get
Mm.
very cross if somebody's quoted me, well, this will be between 40 and 50,000. And it's a perfectly straightforward transaction and nothing unusual happens. And then they try and bill me 75. And I'm thinking, no, um, I won't use you again if you do that because you need to be able to rely on people. You know, um, if you've taken a decision to instruct somebody on one basis, that needs to be genuinely the basis on which they are instructed. They need to be people of their word.
Yeah, the problem is that they don't see the other side. It's all about me. I want to charge you because I did X, Y, Z, or this took longer. The reality is that as a general counsel, you have a budget.
Exactly.
You've agreed the budget, you've got it signed off by the CFO and the board, and everyone's expecting to only spend this amount of money. This is a lump sum. I've been allocated for you to do this job for me. So stick to it. And if there is any thought at any time that the budget may be exceeded, then I have to have the conversation with the GC in advance, way in advance, and give a full explanation. And by doing that, you're actually giving your client, the GC, a chance to consider whether or not they want you to go down that route and to find an alternative way to do things to reduce the cost. Or they might take a bigger risk, but you've got to give them the opportunity to do that. And then we as the GC have the opportunity to go back and explain to the CFO and the board, actually, we're going to pay another 10,000 and here's the justification. I would recommend it because of the benefits that come with it. Or something's come up that we didn't take into account. That's actually quite an important,
It is
it's a real skill for a law firm partner to remember and actually do it.
it is massively important. And also I think being proportionate. I've certainly had situations where people have said to me, well, okay, it's £25,000 more than I quoted, but I spotted this risk which might have materialised and it might have cost you £50,000. I'm thinking, well, I'm only £25,000 up and the risk might not actually feels quite a remote risk to me anyway. And I've lost all of this revenue because the contract's taken 4 weeks longer than I was expecting it to take to be signed. So if you'd come and talk to me, I might have said, we'll live with that risk. But solving it and then billing me afterwards, that doesn't fly with me at all.
I don't think that would fly with anyone, actually. Um, I think, Nikki, the law firms really need to make the effort to truly understand your business. And if they really understood your business and all the challenges that you were going through, to be a true partner as a legal advisor, then they would be able to understand why you would think this risk is a remote risk and it's one that you probably could live with. And also, it goes to show that to develop the relationship with your GC client, to have such a good relationship, you should be able to, by virtue of that relationship, you should be able to do that assessment yourself and have the confidence to pick up the phone, because it's only a phone call, a quick call. There's a risk. I've spotted it. It is a risk. We think it's remote, and we just wanted to highlight to you that if we were to do some work on it to investigate, it would probably be of another 10, 15 grand. What do you think, Nicki?
Yeah, that's exactly how I would like people to address it. And it's always possible that they're going to be educating me in something that really is a risk that I wouldn't have considered. And we have the conversation, and I say, yes, go ahead and spend it. But at least I know,
At
and I'm
least
not
have
getting
the
sticker
conversation.
shock.
Yes, exactly. Um, so, and on that note, Nicki, what helps someone to build real trust with you?
Um, so I think it's the authenticity piece. It's uh, mean what you say and say what you mean. Perhaps it's my Northern Irish background, but I'm big on plain speaking. I don't like people that I can't read. I don't like feeling that I've got somebody's, that I understand where somebody's coming from and then discover kind of 3 months later that actually completely got them wrong. I
Mm,
can't abide at work. I can't abide internal politics.
mm,
Just don't do it. I
mm,
don't think internal politics has ever done any business any good. It might do the person that's practicing it good, but it's toxic for everybody else. It doesn't do the business any good. It's commercially disastrous. And I don't like that in my external relationships either. I don't like people jockeying for position or trying to promote themselves if it's not justified.
mm, mm. Yeah, that's really great points to share with everyone. Thank you, Nicki. If I may take you to some quick fire questions. So, tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Reading a book or going to the theatre?
Oh, I love both, but probably reading a book.
Classical music or hip hop?
Well, definitely not hip hop, so it's going to have to be classical.
Roses or white lilies?
White lilies.
Baked beans or mince on toast, which is a Kiwi thing?
Oh, yeah, definitely baked beans. I've never heard of mince and toast, Lesley.
Well, now you know. Lamborghini or Mini Cooper?
Oh, can I go for Aston Martin?
You can. I'll get you one. Beach holiday or hiking trip?
Beach holiday.
Labradors or toy poodle?
Labradors.
Fantastic. Well, Nicki, that was really wonderful to spend time talking to you today and getting the real Nicki coming out and showing us the real you and learning about what's important to you, what makes you tick. Um, it's been really insightful for me, and I'm sure for everyone around us listening to the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lesley. It's always a pleasure.
And that was Nicki Schroeder, and that is Unfiltered Counsel and Beyond.